Hello you beautiful people. Today's video is extracts from my stream where I demonstrated how to do virtual photography in Division 2. I hope you enjoy.
That's one of our guys. The only enemies we have are over here. And I am going to place my decoy here and see what happens. So let's get rid of my drone because I don't want to keep them away. And more controls. Zoom in. That's what I want. Ah. Almost got it. I'm just taking a few shots really. So we've got a fair bit of negative space, but he's facing this way, which is why I'm setting it up this way.
For this crop, I'm going to try and get as much negative space as possible. I want that space to be in front of him. Let's just move that across. I have him on the top right third. And a little bit of the barrier just to give it some scale, really. So now I've dropped all of the colour so I can just focus on the light. I'm going to drop the blacks, I'm going to increase the whites by a lot so it makes it quite a striking image. I'm just softening that by reducing the shadows a bit darker, reducing the highlights until it stands out a bit more. Just need to experiment with the exposure. I'm going for quite a dark picture because it was a night sky. I'll start bringing back the colour. I like the majority of it. I just need to bring down the skin tone a bit, and orange is the best way to do that. On some you need to do the red as well. But on this one I'm just going to reduce the saturation in his hat as well. And to finish off, I'm going to reduce the clarity, and that's more of a style thing than anything else. But how you tend to work with photos when you're editing, you work on light, colour, then the details, and this is the end result.
This is a very interesting character. So I'm going to get a little, well, I was going to try and get a little bit ahead, but I've reached the limit of where I can move to. Frame him a little bit better.
I have a couple of ideas on how to frame this one. Unfortunately, the second one is more cropped in, so we're going to work with a more panned out shot to start with. I'm using the rule of thirds, so I've got the head on the top right, intersection that is. Oops, pressed the wrong thing. I want to reduce the saturation. So that allows me to work with the light. Now I'm going for a moody picture on this one, but I still want some features, so it's almost like silhouette. I'm using the whites really high, but everything else turned down. I'm going to counteract it with the exposure just to bring in a little bit more detail in the suit. And now I can introduce the colours back. I'm going to have them about there, but I want to mute the sky, so I'm going to drop the blues, both the saturation and the luminance on the dark blue, and I'm going to adjust the light blue after this. About there, and then balance it with the luminance. So it's still a feature, but it's not distracting. So that's my idea behind that. I like to reduce the clarity, and it's more to give it a look than anything else. Just tweaking a few things and dropping the highlights a little bit more saturation, vignette to draw the eye in. As you can tell, it needs to be a more cropped shot. As I said, I had two ideas. The first one didn't work. That doesn't work. Actually, no. Let's just bring him to the right third. That's better. Okay, so just need to brighten the picture because it's far more cropped in, so that the sky is more of a feature. So I just need to balance it out to draw the eye back to effectively the head and the chainsaw. That's the subject of this picture. Just reducing the highlights, and all I'm doing, as I said, is tweaking it to balance, and that's where we get.
So I rather like the blue car. Let's see what I can do with that. I'm going to move forward for this nice clean road. Do I want the tree or do I think the building? Rather like the tree. Oops, bit extreme. Slight angle. Now I'm going to have the building upright, but I think the tree in the background, that is quite nice. But there's no way I'll be able to crop this car out. But will that be an issue? I don't think so, in all honesty. So I may either just have the building in the background, the whole of the car, and a little bit of the tree. I don't believe that will work. I'm not overly comfortable having the tree near the front of the blue car. However, I could potentially use some of the front of the car in the background, the whole of this car, a tiny bit of the building, and maybe not the top of the tree, but a good portion of it.
Again, I don't have a clear vision of this. I wanted to have the tree, the car, and a little bit of the building. So we're starting with that. Okay, I want a little bit of space at the back, but most of the space at the front. Let's draw it out, because we've got that negative space in the road, so it'd be a shame not to use it. I'm going to have a look at that. Okay, let's bleed everything out, colour-wise that is. Darkening the picture. And then the highlights from the white. But with the shadows and the highlights, I'm actually going to go the opposite direction. And it will give it a more unified look. It's a flatter image. Let's try that with a bit of colour. I like that for the background. So now I just need to adjust the tree and then the car. So make sure we're more emerald hue on the tree. I want it to stand out a little bit. Now let's work on the car. The main feature of it was the dark blue, so that's why I'm working on that first. And nothing too much, I just need it to stand out. You just need to drop. No, it's too far. Let's try 2. Reduce the clarity by a fair amount, by 14's about right. And a bit of film grain as well to give the picture more texture. Draw the eye in with the vignette, And here we are.
This. Let me get the camera back. Not far enough. That's a shame. Got an interesting frame there. Quite like the angles. I like the... He looks like the Terminator now. Come with me if you want to live. But I like the creeper on the pillar. I like how his head fits. Oh, jeez. Is within the grey ceiling. Really framed him.
Okay, so it's quite an easy crop on this one. Again, he's going to be on the top right hand third. He's looking our way, but his body is facing to the left, hence I'm going for the space on the right. And also I wanted it to have I'm going to call it ivy, it's some form of creeper on the left third as well to balance out the shot. Even though it's slightly taller, the shadow hides that fact. And I'm actually using the preset that I made a few days ago, which they're very useful for saving time for a start, also to recreate a look that you like, which was the reason I created the preset. And then you just need to tweak it a little bit, and this is what you get.
That's kind of nice. Just trying to frame the Halings. So that much gets obscured by the tree, but I rather like the shadow leading across this image.
Okay, so the main subject is the truck, but I do like the ivy and the shadow. They're more of a secondary one. And even though the shadow is a perfect diagonal line to the top of this frame, I don't need too much of that, simply because if I zoom out a bit more, then you'll have too much of the path in front of the we'll call it ivy, and you would lose some of the impact of the truck. So we've got the leading line from the shadow to the truck, and I think that works really, really well. So now I'm just accentuating it, and I'm going for a strong contrast, as you can see. It's quite a simple edit, and I'm happy with the result.
I like the idea of using this frame.
Right, so with the crop, I love the two windows, using that as a double frame within a frame. So all I need to do is set him up. I've got the turret on the bottom third as well, you will have noticed, and that's just to strengthen its relationship to the image. So all I need to do now is adjust it using the preset that I made earlier, and then just adjusting it to the lighting conditions of this image. Slight vignette, and no, I was about to say we're done, but it's not quite right. Now, even though I removed the colours, bringing a bit more shadow in, I can counteract the effect, because it was a sunny day, so I can sort of add a bit of warm temperature to it to balance that out. But again, I needed to deepen it to make it look like this.
I'm just going to hide here because I don't think these people have seen me yet. Uh,
I'm really happy that I caught this shot. So now I'm just going to crop in. Now I want the person on the left to be in the centre of the third. It just makes them the focal point with the second and third character odd numbers to complete the picture. Again, I'm using the preset because that's what they're for, but I'm going to increase the exposure. I mean, not too much because I don't want to draw away from the fact it's night time. So I'm just focusing on the highlights now, and so I'm increasing the green and the light blue of the masks just to make them stand out. So that leads me to a little bit more black to counteract it and give it a good strong contrast. Didn't need much vignette for that because, well, the results speak for themselves.
can I climb up here? Cannot get over here, which is annoying. Because that's quite nice. But I do not want this thing in the way. That's too cropped. Let's get a bit closer.
Ambush detected.
Oh man. I think it was about there. So we'll capture that.
That photo took a lot of work, simply because I got shot by some NPCs, dealt with them, then a person came along, went rogue and killed me, even though I was trying to avoid them. But then, that's Dark Zone life. But I'm happy with the composition of this. I've cropped it in, as you can see. Oh, right. And now I'm just putting a preset on and adjusting it to suit the picture. So I want it to be quite a moody, not dingy but dark image, simply because it's an alleyway. I'm going to actually reduce the whites, reduce the highlights. I wasn't quite happy with how close it was. I want some more in there, and I'm trying to put that lamppost on the top left hand third together with the building, and that gives us a good bit of the front of the building as well. I'm happy with that composition. Just need to adjust a few qualities of the picture, so I'm going to decrease the blacks, use a vignette, draw the eye in. Did make it a little bit dark, so let's counteract that with a bit of exposure. And it was a warm day, hence a bit of warm temperature. Not too much because I don't want the yellow or orange to be overpowering. I'm going to reduce the clarity a little bit and add some film grain because I rather like that effect. And it's by film grain, I mean similar to what you would get on a camera. And that's the picture.
We've got the shadow leading up to him, which is quite interesting. Not really any way to maximize this. I'm going to do this angle. Because yes, the main focus was this shadow leading up to the dumbbell, him highlighted by the where you've basically got the white part framing him fairly well. He's fairly central to that. I could also make it very closer like that, which I think is actually a better picture, so I'm going to take that now.
Now the importance of this is just to only have the elements that make sense. I'm framing him on the top right hand third, and unfortunately there's no way I can get the dumbbell on the bottom left hand third, but it's still almost framed by the shadow, and I feel that that incorporates it into the image fairly well. I mean, you do stick to the rules, but if it's not possible, sometimes you get lucky, and that's exactly what this is. You know, the way that the light is reflecting off the bell, I mean the actual bar part of the dumbbell, and how it's framed by shadows, just keeps it a part of the image. So now it's just making a few adjustments to the colour and the hues, and we've got the picture.
Just experimenting. I like this contrast here. I'm keeping it quite clean, so that's why I'm removing these tiles here. But it's not a particularly interesting window, which is a shame because that would have really made it. I'm now looking just to see if I wasted my time or not. I don't think I have. I'm going to take that. See if I can straighten it to make it a bit more interesting. I think that's straight. Although that's closer. It's getting a bit dark, so I'm taking that shot.
Right, that isn't actually straight by looks of it. Now that I've got the rule of thirds grids there, so let's just centre it, and then I'm rotating, making sure that they're perfectly straight. Oh, no, wasn't quite right. But that works. Okay, so next we're going to reduce the clarity, going to increase the shadow slightly just to bring some more brick detail out. Because I feel that it's quite a plain picture, so getting as much texture in there as possible. And I want to increase the brick colours. So a little bit of orange, a little bit of mauve, I'm going to call that, and a touch of red. But I still want it to be a washed out picture, so I'm not going too far. And the only way to do that is to remove some colours. And again, I'm going with the blues, I'm moving them closer to grey. And let's have a slight adjustment on the shadows and the highlights to balance out the colour changes. Draw the eye in with a little bit of vignette, just increasing the roundness. And the reason I'm doing this is so it will give me a chance to see exactly where the vignette is. Don't want to go too much though, so I'm dropping it about 8. And there we are.
I don't think I'm going to be able to incorporate this into this picture. And I don't think it stands out on its own. Little bit of foreground, maybe. Have that in the bottom right third. This is going to be a layered picture. How successful that layered picture is, I don't know. But effectively, we're going to use the white edge on where I am. The shadow of the side of the wall highlights the "Give Us Some Love." You've got a little bit of shadow on the, I assume to be an air conditioning unit. You've also got the cable across. It's very busy, but there's so many angles there. And I may not even use all of the "Give Us Some Love" or anything like that. I haven't decided yet, because the side of that building was quite interesting.
Again, I don't have a defined idea of this, so it's going to be a little bit of experimenting. All I know is the graffiti is the part that interests me the most. So I'm going to try it on the top right hand third. Doesn't quite work. Bottom left third. About there, I think. Okay, that works. So now we need to I'm going to use the filter first, actually. Now we can make some adjustments, bringing up the shadows a lot, and that's simply because the graffiti is the thing that drew my eye into it. I can't go too far, simply because it's in the shadow. You can clearly see that in the image, so it still needs to make sense. So a little bit of temperature to bring some of that summer glow back to it. Going to adjust the vignette to draw the eye in, and next we're going to bring the shadows down a touch, and again I'm just trying to make it realistic without losing too much detail. Last but not least, drop the clarity. I'm going to put a bit of grain in there to make it look more like a photograph, and here we are. It's always challenging taking photos in a living and dangerous world, but not impossible. With some planning and also the handy skills that you have in Division 2, you can create distractions away from yourself so that you can still get your action shots without being drawn out of the photo mode. Now, you will have noticed that I used presets for some of my edits. I created it after being really happy with a picture I had edited, and so I saved it to allow me to recreate the look with a few tweaks, and also it speeds up the editing time massively. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.